Hello, everybody, and welcome to the final third. And today we're going to be doing our Premier League Match Week 7 results. We're going to be reacting to the results of the games. A lot of good games, not many high scoring games. Nothing too crazy, but some good results and some maybe results we weren't really expecting. But that's the Premier League for you. So let's just jump straight into it. Actually, before we do any of that, do you want to reveal the player from last time, Al?
Yes, the player was Gilberto Silva. Very solid player for Arsenal back in the day. And so carry on, Charles.
Yeah, perfect. So let's just actually jump straight into it. So the first game of the weekend was Bournemouth vs Fulham, and Bournemouth won 3-1. Now, Al, Bournemouth have a very dangerous set of players, none more so than Anton Semenyo. He scored 2 goals in this game, and one of his goals was an absolute beauty because he dribbled through the team and put it between Leno's legs. Do you think a player like Semenyo will stay at Bournemouth for a while because they are a good team and they're doing well, or do you think he will earn a move to a bigger club soon?
I think he'll move to a bigger club, and I think he should. I think he is playing above the quality that Bournemouth are, if you know what I mean. I think he's just such a great player. So I watched the game, to be fair, as well. And to be fair, I've been given a lot of praise to Semenyo already. I think we all have, to be fair, on the podcast. And, it's fair enough because he's such a great player. And he showed it again against Fulham with the 2 goals. Especially that first goal. Oh my God, the tech to run down the line, get past the player, and then just the finish as well from the tight angle. Like, it just shows how good he is. Like, even though he's meant to be a fullback, he's just so good going forward. And yeah, bro, it's just a joy to watch, to be fair. And Bournemouth got a real good player on their hand right there. And to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if in the summer he gets a big move to one of the big clubs, whether it's outside the Prem or in the Prem. For example, maybe like a Man City. Obviously, we know they got problems with fullbacks, especially right back. So you never know. I think he'll be really sought after in the transfer window. And I wouldn't be surprised because he's just such a great player.
Yeah, you're right. Fantastic player, and he's performed nearly every single game for Bournemouth this season. But moving on to the Fulham side of things, Hassan, I'm going to ask you about, generally, there was a stat that Ali mentioned before we started. They're the team who have lost the most leads in the league. I believe that's what the fact was. Do you think this is a mentality issue? Do you think this is a question with the team? Because I know they are starting a lot of young players and probably inexperienced kind of players. Obviously, Josh King being a good little player for them. But do you think they have the quality to, push on from what they did last season and maybe push for Europe?
I think Fulham is a good side. I think the coach is also pretty good. I think he's been very unlucky with injuries. Obviously, Raul Jimenez got injured as well. So obviously, I had to play Josh King at striker, which is not ideal. He's not a striker, and he's a young kid. He's not got enough experience in the Premier League. So I feel like it's quite unfair for you to put a young player in that position who's not even in that position. So it's always going to be a difficult game for Fulham. Obviously, they did score first. But I think it's just a lack of squad depth, I feel like, injuries can happen or whatever, but you got to be prepared for those things, you got to make sure that you have enough squad depth to cover for those unfortunate circumstances. But, I think Fulham, when they're all fit and, playing good, they can be a good team and beat any team. They did have a lot of draws this season, but against good sides, like United, for example. I wouldn't say United's a very good side, but you bet on United to be winning against Fulham, which, and Fulham, credit to them, they played really well that game. And they did obviously score the goal first, which is, as you said, a concern, because the fact that they lost 3-1, which isn't a pretty scoreline for them. It's that question of, what's going wrong with the team right now? Why they're conceding many goals late on? It could be a mentality thing, but I think it's just because, there's an injury crisis going on at Fulham, and they don't have enough players to cover for that. So obviously chopping and changing players usually kind of messes up the team and, kind of ruins the momentum slightly, because you want to have a consistent starting 11 with the players knowing what they're doing and playing a specific style of football. But when you have players that are, new and young, not used to the team fully, they're not going to play the best football, and the manager's not going to get the best out of their players. So, yeah, look, I think Fulham right now, unfortunate circumstances for them right now, but I think later on in the season, if they can bring back some players from injuries, such as Jimenez and Tete, then, they could probably do better. But, yeah, it's just quite a rough period for them. And I guess a side like Bournemouth, who, as we know, they're a very good side, got a very good manager. They're going to punish teams like Fulham, who are not doing the best right now. So, yeah, as a Fulham fan, you hope that the team, comes back from injuries. Because I think in that game, Lukic also had to be subbed off pretty early on because of the injury. So, not great for them because Lukic is a good player. But yeah, it's just unfortunate. These things happen in football. Injuries can really make or break a team season. But yeah, we'll have to see how it goes for them. But credit to Bournemouth, they deserve the win, and yeah, that's all I can say really.
Yeah, like you said, just a general topic about the match. Yeah, Bournemouth were definitely the better team. What comes with having quality players in attacking positions, like we talked about Semenyo. Justin Kluivert scored a great goal too. There is a lack of quality in Fulham. There is like you said, a reliance on the 18-year-old Josh King. It's not good to have a player, especially at this level. To rely on an 18-year-old is not good. You want to nurture these type of players in. But yeah, like I said, you guys covered it quite well, so there's not really much more I can add to this game in particular. So we'll move on to the next game, and that is Leeds versus Tottenham. And in this game, Leeds lost 2-1 to Tottenham at home. Now, Al, I'm going to ask you a question about the Leeds side of things. Now, Leeds have not really been in a very good vein of form. They got an early a win in the first game of the season against Everton. Other than that, they haven't really got anything convincing except for a win against Wolves. And most teams seem to be beating Wolves, so it's not really an achievement. When it comes to Leeds, do you think they're going to be maybe a team that are very likely to be in the relegation battle? Obviously, they are a promoted side, but do you think they are the most likely team to be from the promoted sides in the relegation battle?
To be fair, yeah, I think them and Burnley are probably both going to get relegated this season, unfortunately. It's just, you could clearly see we've had a pattern with the promoted teams that have come up just getting relegated straight away. And unfortunately with these two teams, Burnley and Leeds, it doesn't seem like they've really invested well enough in the transfer window, unlike Sunderland, who did enough to be able to maybe stay in the league. Look, and obviously it's not easy to do. You risk if you make some, spend a lot of money in the transfer window and it doesn't go well. And then when you go down to the Championship, it does leave you in a bit of a hard position to try and make yourself, bring yourself back up into the Prem. And unfortunately, yeah, so they just haven't invested enough in the transfer window to really be able to keep themselves in the Prem. And yeah, I mean, it's just shown in their performances, unfortunately. Yeah, they got a win against Everton, but let's be fair, they got a penalty that probably shouldn't have been a pen. And again, you say they beat Wolves, who we've said before are just having an absolutely awful season. And to be fair, they might be in the relegation battle this season as well, which is quite surprising considering how good they were last season. But obviously they lost a lot of good players. But yeah, no, it's not great. But we expected Tottenham to win that game. We would have been surprised if they didn't, really, with the players that they have. And yeah, with Tottenham, I know you didn't ask me about Tottenham, but I just wanted to add, to be fair, they've looked a bit, I thought they'd be a bit better, if I'm being honest, at this point of the season, especially with the start that they had. But, they're only narrowly winning these games, so there may be a bit of a concern there. But, yeah, no, with Wolves, with Leeds, it's just not looking great right now, if I'm being honest, for them.
Yeah, I agree. And the point you made about Tottenham not being convincing in any of their games, I don't really think there's been any team that's been convincing in this season in the league. Maybe the team you might say is most convincing is Arsenal, because they've had a couple of good high-scoring game wins. But, other than that, even Liverpool, they haven't been convincing. Man City, not really convincing, except for the win against United, but we don't talk about that. Yeah, but that's it. When it comes down to the Tottenham side of things, I did kind of want to ask Ali about this, but I decided let me ask Hassan so it doesn't piss you off. Mohamed Kudus scored his first goal for Tottenham, got an assist as well, and yeah, to be fair, when you look at the stats, it's kind of against the run of play that Tottenham won the game. Does it show that a player of Mohamed Kudus's quality is going to be vital for Tottenham this season?
Yeah, 100%. I think in this game, in this game, he was the star of the show. Obviously a goal and assist. That is exactly what you want. You want to play to step up and provide good performances. In situations like that where the rest of the team might not be playing well. And he proved exactly that. He had the goal and assist, which is exactly what a summer transfer window result you want. You don't want players to come in and have a hard time. Like Verts, for example. Like you want them to do well and put a good impact on the team straight away, because it sets a good image and like overall like reputation. You know that you're gonna expect good things out of this player, and Kudus has been doing that for Tottenham since the start of the season. He's been having good performances, and he's looking to be a good signing, to be fair. Xavi Simons, I didn't see much of him, to be fair. I thought he was quiet that game. And I think as well, Tal at striker, he did score a goal, but I think he missed quite a few chances, actually. I think he hit the post as well. So it's just, you need a bit more clinical strikers, in Tottenham. Because when they had the likes of Harry Kane, everyone knows him, he's a world-class striker, especially with Son on the left. They're a very dangerous side when it comes to attack. Even had the likes of Eriksen, who was very good in his prime. But yeah, I think Tottenham obviously are going for a rebuild stage right now in terms of the attack. And I think they need maybe the January transfer window, maybe the next summer transfer window to, bolster attack a bit more, get an, experienced striker maybe. Because I don't think what's his name? The other striker for Tottenham.
Colomwani or
Richarlison?
Richarlison as well, but the English one. I forgot.
Solanke,
yeah. He's not been the best for Tottenham either, not consistent enough. He's had good moments, but I don't think that's what Tottenham needs. They need a player to be consistently good and offering goal threat out front all the time. So yeah, but I do think Palhinha has been a good addition to Tottenham. He's improved that midfield a lot, and I think that's what they were missing from last season. A centre defensive mid who's very physical, a destroyer basically. And obviously losing James Maddison is not ideal because he did a lot for the midfield as well. But yeah, overall as well, the defense and goalkeeper, I think Vicario made a few good stops as well. And the goalkeepers sometimes win you games as well. And crucial moments, making big saves can definitely, help a team win. And yeah, as Ali's also said, I don't think Tottenham are playing the best football. They've just not been convincing. Like, as Hals also said, most teams in Premier League have not been consistent enough or winning convincingly. So I think it's just maybe a mentality thing. Maybe it's just, I don't know what it is, to be honest. Like, it's not how we usually see it every season. Every season we can tell who might win the league or who might be the top 2, top 3, but it's difficult, I think only Arsenal has been having this momentum and been quite consistent, but the rest of the teams can't really speak for Liverpool. Obviously, they have 3 games, they lost all 3 games. So now, you can't really say Liverpool's doing well. But yeah, it's just, not a lot of teams doing well, and it's quite weird to see that. But yeah, no, great performance from Tottenham, especially from Kudus, and they just need to be more consistent and play better football. And eventually it is a new coach as well, so they'll get more time to develop as players, and the coach will get time to develop and understand his players more. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say, to be fair.
Yeah, I agree. Players like Kudus can be a very, vital point. Sorry, I can't keep a straight face while looking at Ali and saying that. Sorry, I know he's pissed. But yeah, it is. But I think with Tottenham, they are lacking in the left wing position and the striker position. They haven't really got a player that can sort of come in and really make a massive difference. They lost Son and Kane over the recent seasons, which obviously those two were so important for them. So having to replace them is a big ask. Like Hassan was saying about Solanke, he's not really come in and done well. Richarlison hasn't been convincing at all. Tell's still a young player. You never know. He could find his feet after this goal. But I think they do need a top striker to sort of bring them back into the form that they probably, want to be in and being in amongst where they, title talks and that. Do you know what I mean? But we'll move on to the next game, and that is Manchester United versus Sunderland. So Man United won 2-0. Me and Ali didn't predict that. Hassan predicted a win, which, fair play to him. The team backed us, and I'm very happy about that, to be honest.
You need to believe, bro.
Yeah, true. I'm going to ask you more questions about Man United, and then we'll sort of Sunderland sort of like discuss it a little bit, to be fair, because let's be honest, they didn't really perform well. I thought they were quite poor, to be honest, in a sense. But Al, I'm gonna ask you about Benjamin Sesko. Now,
Okay.
this guy came in with a lot of pressure on his shoulders, and he has scored in back-to-back games. Sorry, I'm not saying he's a world beater or anything, but he's come in and looked very good. Even in this game, I thought his hold-up play was very good, and he did very well. Do you think this could be the start of form for him, and maybe being a consistent sort of player for Man United?
Look, you hope so. Especially for United, they've been missing a goal threat for quite a long time. And, Sesko does look like a good player at Leipzig. And I think the biggest issue really is not necessarily been the striker himself, but, the chances he's been given. He's hardly been given enough chances. But when he has had chances, I mean, like, he hasn't scored a bag full of goals, but he's, when he's had the good chances, he scored them. And that's what you want from your striker. Obviously, that was a bit of a, issue with Haaland last season. And the seasons that he's been there. But yeah, look, so Sesko does look like he can, finish a chance that he gets. But that's the thing. You need to start creating more chances for him, really. And so we'll just see, how that goes, whether Bruno can start creating more chances if he maybe gets played in his position. And if maybe Mount had a good game as well, so maybe if he can carry on that, that form and be able to help get some more goals for Sesko as well, that will obviously help him get, better form. But look, it's crazy because obviously I did predict him to be the worst player this season. Well, worst signing this season, and it wasn't necessarily because of the player himself, but it was more due to the fact, for example, the pressure of being a United striker that we obviously seen how can affect a player like Haaland, who's obviously doing great for Napoli now. And not only that, but Carlos and Hassan, I've talked so many times about how you guys do not create enough chances. So again, it was never to do with the fact that I thought Sesko was, a bad player, because I think he is a great player, but it was more to do with United and the problems that they have, and especially creating chances for the striker. And look, like I say, if you can keep giving him chances, great chances as well, then yeah, I'm sure he can, go on to do well for United. But that's the thing, that's the question we got to ask. Will United create more chances? Obviously, there's an international break, and I think that's, good probably for United. I know you want to keep up the momentum, but at the same time, with everything that's been going on with United, I think it's good for Amram to maybe try to settle the team down a little and maybe get them all reorganised and back, together, get a bit more chemistry together with the players. So, again, just as long as he gets chances, I think he will score them. So, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Like we all did say this at Man United don't make many chances for the striker, and they haven't made chances for a long time now. But I mean, to be fair, the goal we scored today, scored in this game, was a long throw. So I felt in my head, I was saying Stoke FC, just keep on. That's wrong. Repeat in my head, Rory Delap and all of that. But yeah, Hassan, on the sort of attacking side of things as well. You look at our team and how it's building up. I think we have a consistent right-hand side now in terms of Lenny Yoro, Amad Diallo, and Brian Mbeumo. That's a side that's constant, and it's working very well. You look at the left-hand side, not so much. You got Luke Shaw, you got Diogo Dalot, and you got Mason Mount, who had a great game. So you probably can't knock Mason Mount, and obviously we bought Cunha, and he'll probably interchange with Mason Mount himself. But in terms of Dalot and Luke Shaw, they are not convincing players, and we've talked about this many times. Obviously, Alessandro Martinez is going to come back and probably will take over Luke Shaw's position, and Dorgu's a young player. What do you think, let's say, if Alessandro Martinez comes back in the team, will that make a massive difference, and can that potentially help a Dorgu in front of him?
100%. I think Lisandro Martinez, when obviously not his first season, but I think his second season on the Eric Ten Hag, he was great, to be fair. Him and Rafael Varane, very good partnership. He was a very reliable centre back. He helped a lot in the build-up play because his ball playing abilities are very good. That's like one of his strong points. And we are missing that at the back, to be fair. You got De Ligt, who's a very good player. He's been probably one of our best players this season. Very physical, gives me like Nemanja Vidic vibes. He's not scared to put in a tackle, nothing like that. But obviously his ball playing abilities are not the best part about him. He's more of a defender who gets the ball, tries to retrieve and make recoveries and, just pass it. But I think we're missing a defender who's able to create chances for players up front, long balls and whatever, because that was Lisandro Martinez's strong point, and we're kind of missing that because Luke Shaw, he's been quiet, unreliable, like under the ball, he looks a bit tense, he doesn't look comfortable on the ball, and he does play the wrong pass a lot of the times. I think this game, he didn't look bad because I think Sunderland were just toothless, didn't have any attack going on. I think because Sunderland did not play well, his Luke Shaw's bad parts to his game were not exposed that much. But obviously, if it was to be against a good side, he'd struggle a bit more. And yeah, you're right about the left-hand side. I think it's a shadow of the right side. I think it's not as good. Diego Dalot, he was the most frustrating player to watch, to be fair. A lot of misplaced passes, just running into no man's land, not tracking back. I think I even saw the fans trying to instruct him where to position himself on the pitch, which is quite embarrassing. As a professional footballer, you should know your position on the pitch. You shouldn't let other people telling you where to go, whatever. The coach, fair enough, but if fans can see it and they know that you're not in your position, that's quite embarrassing for a footballer. And he's just not got high IQ, he's very frustrating to watch. He's been our best player a couple of seasons ago. He won the best player of the year, but he's just been, I don't know, he's just not been great. He's not been consistent. I get it, that's not his position on the left, but he's had good games on the left. Against Liverpool last season, if I remember correctly, Aram's away game against Liverpool, he played really well. He caused havoc for Trent, but I think this game he was off it. He was completely off it. Dorgu, young player, he's a great player. He just needs more time. He's still 20 years old, so I say just give him more time, to be fair. And Mount, he was a bit of a questionable signing when he first joined. He was injured, very injury prone or whatever. But when he's been given the chance and put in his right position, he's played really well, to be fair. All aspects of his game are good. He helps in the defense a lot. He's very creative. His finishing is good as well. So I think all round he's a good player. Maybe not the level that we want in the future if we want to be winning titles and whatever. But I think as a good squad player, he's good. Cunha, obviously a new player. He needs a bit more time to gel in with the team. Not enough confidence as well. Hopefully he scores because I don't want him to have a 007. So he needs to score and assist very soon. But I think you can tell he's a great player regardless of the stats. You can tell Cunha is very direct. He likes to get the ball, shoot and try attempt to score a goal. And he did that, to be fair. He had a few attempts on goal, but obviously he wasn't lucky enough to score. I think overall that the team showed they were just dominant. And I don't know if this is Sunderland not being as good as they were, because I think Sunderland just were missing in that game, So you can't fully judge the team based off that because, one team wasn't in it and one team was actually trying to win. So, yeah, I think when we play against a good side, maybe the same problems will get exposed. So you can't really judge it from that game. But if you're judging it off that one game, we played really well and nothing much we can say. And also, big shout out to Sonny Lemons, he had a very good game. Us United fans, our standards are very low when it comes to goalkeeper. So I remember every time he made a high claim or whatever, the fans were just obviously cheering for him or whatever. But it is honestly great to see a goalkeeper knowing the basics, and it is relieving to see that. He gives me young Courtois vibes as well. Very demanding. In his debut, he's already asking his defenders to do more and asking the best out of them, which is what you want. This is the mentality we need at United, especially if you want to get to the top. And I think he's a good young talent. So yeah, all around good game, and yeah, not much to say other than that.
Agreed. Sonny Lamens. Again, you don't want to hype him up. It's one game. It's his first game, but it is very impressive. He got a clean sheet on his debut, and he did look commanding. And we haven't had that for a while. We haven't had a goalkeeper that really makes a high claim. I mean, Onana never did it. Bayern never does it. Even De Gea back in his prime, he rarely made high claims. He was more known for the worldy saves. So yeah, it's nice to have that, and it could be an interesting start for a interesting young player. And I also want to talk about give a shout out to the Sunderland goalkeeper as well, because he's been fantastic this season. He's literally kept Sunderland in games and won them clean sheets. And to be fair, even in this one, the game could have been a lot higher. Could have been about 4-5-0, but he kept them well in the game. So in the end of the day, probably 2-0 is the correct score. And I think obviously us as United fans are happy that we got the win in the end of the day. So you can't really complain. We'll move on to the next game, and we can have somebody that might start complaining a little bit, and it is Arsenal versus West Ham. Now, if I'm honest with you, I didn't really watch the game because I was in work, but we'll ask Ali about the West Ham side of things. Al, not great, obviously, but we all expected, you guys not to get a result, Arsenal, because we know how good they are at home, and we expected them to get a clean sheet too, just because, they are solid defensively. What do you think Nuno has to do now? What during the international break? Because he's got time, he's got this opportunity to sort of take who's left of the squad, obviously for the ones who haven't been called up, and sort of build something, to restart. Let's say you could say after the international break is like the new start to a season, if that makes sense. What do you think he needs to do?
Number one, terminate Mavropanos' contract. I never want to see that man play football ever again. This guy, look, I'm not going to lie, I didn't see too much of the game as well. I was in work. But God forbid this man, how is he a footballer? I don't even want to get into it, because if I get into it, I'm going to say some things that can't be said in this video. So I'm not going to get into it too much with that guy. But look, he's awful, and that is where our problem lies. In the defence, it is absolutely shambolic, right? Our ownership are to blame for this, right? They are absolutely awful. Haven't invested enough in the transfer window, especially where it's needed to be invested. Honestly, the biggest problem we've had this season is the defence. I hate to say it, Kilman is also not a great defender, and we spent a lot of money on him, 45 mil, I believe. And, I'm not surprised that, he looked good at Wolves, of course. He was the captain, and he was putting in good performances for them. So, it's all a bit of hindsight, really. At the time when we were signing him, it seemed like a good signing, but of course, unfortunately, it hasn't really turned out to go that way. He hasn't been great, unfortunately, for us. He's shown moments when he's carried the ball out of the defence and, created chances, to be fair to him. But unfortunately, defensively, he's just inept. He's absolutely awful. And it's cost us a lot of times. And same, again, like I said, with Mavropanos. The fullbacks are fine, in my opinion. Especially Diouf. He's probably one of our highlighted players this season. I mean, a lot of people have been saying, how great of he's probably one of the best left backs in the league, to be fair. I think a lot of big teams, if they had him, would, be, scoring a lot more goals from the crosses that he can put into the box. And look, I'm not surprised. Our ownership, as you can see, we've had, protests, I think, in the last 3 games, and rightly so. The owners need to take some responsibility. And what annoys me the most is it's the fact that they just keep trying to deflect the responsibility and try to not take accountability for when it goes wrong. Look, they're not investing properly. They sacked the sporting director that we had, who was trying to be ambitious, trying to bring in Ruben Amorim at the time when instead of Lopetegui. But nah, they decided, screw that guy, let's sack him and let the owner decide all the signings that come in. Mate, I don't know how this guy has no background in football. I wish I could mention what his background is in, but this video would get demonetized, so I'm not going to say that. You can search it up on Google for yourself if you want to. But look, he's an absolutely awful owner. And to be honest, yeah, I feel, you gotta... You can't be surprised with the protests, really. It's just, they aren't doing enough. And like I said, they're not taking accountability. And look, for Nuno, in the international break, I think he needs to just really see what he can do with that defence. There's not a lot he can do. To be honest, I would like to see the new loanee that we brought in. I think it's Igor from Brighton. Maybe get some minutes. I mean, I don't know what you got to lose realistically, because neither of the centre backs have been any good. So why not just try and bring him in and see if he can do any better? Really, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, for me, it was kind of like the situation with Lamens. I was surprised he didn't bring him earlier, because what did he have to lose with Bayinda? Because Bayinda was awful. You know what I mean? So for me, it's kind of that similar situation. I don't understand what Nuno has to lose if he just takes one of the centre backs away and brings on the loanee. You know what I mean? But, we'll have to wait and see what the manager can do. I think apart from, the defence is awful, but apart from that, yeah, the midfield, I'm not too mad about. Magassa looks really good. He's young. He has maybe given the ball away a couple of times, but you expect that. He's young. He's come from a different league. And And I can see Carl's laughing there. I think he's probably searched up the ownership's background. So we all know why he's laughing right there.
I didn't know that. I actually didn't know that. That's crazy.
No,
I've got arrested and everything. I'm like, what the hell?
I don't know who let this guy own a club, to be honest. But
that's crazy. Oh my
god. Like I said, the midfield looks alright. In terms of attack, the wings are fine. You know, you got Somerville, he looks great. Bowen, obviously best player probably in the club. But the striker is another problem that we need to address. And unfortunately, for some reason, again, the ownership decides let's keep signing old pensioners. Don't know why, but what do you expect from a bloody old pensioner himself? So that's all I've got to say, West Ham, because if I keep talking, it's going to get really bad. So yeah, I'll let Hassan take over.
Just before Hassan takes over, I just want to make one slight point. I think it looks like he's bringing back his old business in the West Ham side of things. That's all I'm going to say. I couldn't agree with you. Not to go into. I was going to mention something about that, but again, I don't want this video to get demonetized. So don't get into any details. That's it. You know.
I want to say something as well, but I'm not going to say it.
Be careful with what you say. Yeah. Okay. So, Hassan, let's move on to the West Ham side of things because let's just change the subject. Going on to the Arsenal side of things, obviously we did think that Arsenal were going to win the game, and they are currently top of the league. Now, obviously over the last couple of seasons, they have been in amongst the title race, and you know they've been sort of there and around it for the last sort of the pushing the end of the season, but never really able to get over the line. Do you think that this is their best opportunity to go on and potentially clinch the league title?
100%. I think when you look at Liverpool, for example, they're going through a rough patch of form right now. And this is Arsenal's best chance to take advantage of that, you know. So I feel like now it should be Arsenal's mentality to, make use of that, put that into their own advantage, just make someone else's demise their own advantage, because you can't allow the likes of Liverpool to come back and clinch the title, especially for a team that's finished second 3 times in a row. Or even City, to be fair, if they can find a bit of form and start playing good football, then they can easily. We've seen City do that many times. Start the season or mid-season, they're not, first, but they find the way to, get the title. So I feel like Arsenal needs to be careful and just perform well in every game, and like they did against West Ham, I think they played really well. Obviously, I think the scoreline for them isn't the best scoreline they could have had. I think they missed a couple of chances as well. But yeah, no, Arsenal looks like a very good team. And overall, every part of the pitch for Arsenal is very good. The defense side of things, we know Arsenal is probably the best defensive side in the league. So we cannot say anything bad about the defense. Like, very good team overall when it comes to the defense. The goalkeeper Raya made a few good stops as well. So we know him; he's an excellent goalkeeper. Maybe had a bit of criticism from last season, but I think towards the second half of the season he's been pretty good. Declan Rice, also a good player, but I think Arsenal have had 2 major injuries now. I think Rice and Odegaard have both been injured, which isn't great. Obviously, Rice being a big injury crisis for Arsenal. He's been a very dominant player in the midfield for Arsenal. He's been very important. Odegaard as well has been quite injury prone this season. I think this is his 2nd or 3rd time being injured. So that's not looking great for them. He's like the main outlet of creativity, and for him to get injured every other week is not great. You need players to be consistent and be playing all the time, and if he's not doing that, then it's going to have a negative effect on the team. And I think Eze, he came in, did well. Not in this game, but I think in his first couple of games he's been good. I think this game he missed a very big chance. Should have been an easy goal, but he missed the sitter. So you kind of have to knock off the points for that. I don't think he had the best game. Gyökeres, as we said about Gyökeres, not getting enough chances. I think that's Arsenal's biggest weakness, alongside United. They just don't create enough chances for the striker. And Gyökeres has basically disappeared. Like, he just wasn't in the game, which you can't really blame him for. Like, he's just waiting for the chance to fall onto him and to score, but he's not getting that. So you can't really expect him to score and assist if he's not getting the ball enough. And about West Ham, to be fair, Mavropanos did have one good goal clearance, to be fair. He stopped one goal from going in. So you can't blame him for that. I think like Kilman in general, he's not been great. I think Kilman is probably the weakest link out of the 2, in my opinion. I think Malik Diouf as well. Attacking wise, he's good, but he was kind of exposed in the defense side of things. I think he even gave away a pen to Arsenal, which Saka scored after.
I was just going to say on that, that shouldn't have, I saw it, and it was kind of outside the box. I'm not really sure what the ruling is, whether it's where the last contact is or where the first contact is. Because if it's where the first contact is, it shouldn't have been a pen. If it was where the last contact is, then maybe, yeah, fair enough.
I think it's the contact based on what they give the foul for. Like, if it's the first contact wasn't a foul, then obviously they wouldn't give it as a foul outside the box. But if it started from outside the box and they saw that as a foul, then they'd give it. But because the actual foul happened in the box, that's why they gave it, I think.
Probably.
But yeah, we know Prem referees are not exactly consistent. They do a lot of questionable things. So, who knows at this point? They keep changing rules as they go along. And Wan-Bissaka, he wasn't great this game either. I think he got subbed off before the game ended. So obviously, coach was not happy with his performance. I think Wan-Bissaka this season has been pretty off it. For a player that won Player of the Year or Player of the Season for West Ham, not a great start to his season. As a player who's obviously won that award, you should set an example, set the bar high and make sure everyone else is performing to the same level. But he hasn't done that. Wan-Bissaka's got that issue, just not tracking back, not looking at the back post enough, not defending the back post well enough. And yeah, if he doesn't focus on that weak side of his game, then, he could be exposed very easily. And Jared Bowen, I think he was quiet this game as well. He wasn't great. We know Bowen is a quality player and he's had very good games for West Ham, but maybe it's just Arsenal's defense, doing their part. Arsenal's defense, as we know, is very strong. So they kept a lot of good plays for West Ham quiet. So yeah, not really much I can say other than that. It's just Arsenal performed well, and West Ham, a side that's going through some sort of transition period with the new manager. So you just got to give them time, and hopefully a January transfer window for them can fix things maybe. But we have to see, to be honest.
Yeah, agreed. I'll be honest, there's not really much more I can add. I think you guys covered it quite well. Arsenal are probably the team you'd probably look out for the league title, because they seem to be probably the most consistent side. And West Ham have time now to sort of, let Nuno sort of set in, put in his principles, and for the players to understand his style of play. So, hopefully this is the end of West Ham's bad run of form, and they can start performing after the international break. But we're going to move on to the next game, and probably the game of the weekend. Chelsea versus Liverpool, and Chelsea won 2-1 in the last minute. And again, Liverpool have been Liverpooled, last minute goals. The Premier League seems to be happening every week for Liverpool, always conceding or always scoring in the last minute. Now, when it comes to sort of the Chelsea side of things, Al, obviously not many people were expecting a win. I mean, you guys weren't. I said that they might they're more likely the sides to do it, to win the game. Now, what does this win say about Chelsea's mentality and belief in terms of they show that they can play against the big sides and the league champion and do well? Do you think that they can push on, because they've also had a bit of inconsistent run of form? Do you think now that they can use this to help them grow?
Yeah, look, with Chelsea, they are a great team, but they are also obviously a very young team as well. And we've mentioned that many times. But especially where it impacts them a lot is the defence. Like we've said this so many times, they just don't have any experience in the defence, and it has cost them in many games. Look, with this game, it's they showed great resilience to be able to score in the end of the game, and obviously the person that did score the goal was Estevao. Obviously, we said as a player to watch. Obviously, Charles has got him for the player to watch. I think I've got him as my young player to watch, and he's a great player, and obviously scored that goal at the end. And look, like I said, it's where they're really lacking is just the experience in the defense. If they're able to sort that out maybe in January, I could see them doing pushing top 4 easily. I don't think they'll challenge for the title just yet, just because they're a bit too young. I just don't think they have the mentality. Something I do want to mention is Caicedo. I think he might be possibly the best midfielder in the Prem. Now obviously that's debatable. Like just this season, by the way, not like obviously ever or anything like that. But this season, I think he's shown, obviously, yeah. But he's just been really good for Chelsea, and he's been very, pivotal in that midfield. And yeah, it's good to see, because obviously that first season he came in, he wasn't doing great for them, unfortunately. Obviously, maybe that's all to do with the talks around his price tag and the pressure getting to him. But it's great to see that he's turned it around and become like one, the best Premier League midfielder, this season, I'd say. And obviously scored an absolute worldie. So with Chelsea, of course, they've shown a bit of inconsistency as well. Obviously, they've gotten a good few red cards. They're clearly quite a rash team, and some of the players are rash, but that's where the experience is needed, to be able to just command that defense, make sure they don't make mistakes like that, don't dive into tackles like that, and get red cards like Chalobah, of course, and Sanchez against United and stuff like that. Obviously that's going to cost you a lot of games, not only because going 10 men down, but obviously not having them for the next game as well. And yeah, no, I think they're a good team, but I think they do need to just get a bit of experience, but mostly in the defense. But yeah, that's what I got to say on that. In terms of Liverpool, I do just want to quickly mention, look, a lot of people are quite reactionary and, trying to write Liverpool off and all this. I think this international break will be really good for them and Slot to be able to kind of calm down and maybe regroup, realise where the problems lie, and, maybe address those issues. But I think people need to just calm down a bit. But it's quite funny to see some of the memes that are coming out about it with words and all these kind of memes and stuff. So yeah, obviously it's not great for Liverpool, but I'm sure they'll bounce back.
Yeah, obviously Hassan, leading on from Ali's point about Liverpool, in this game you probably say they were the team in control, in the sense that they're the team with the better players, they're the team with more experience. So you'd think that they'd be able to take control of the game and take it by the scruff of the neck. Obviously, clearly that didn't happen. Now, do you think this could be a bit of a concern? Like, I've seen people sort of talking about Arne Slot, not, obviously it is just 3 games where they've lost in a row, but again, 3 games losses in a row isn't very good on the CV. Is there a concern now that they are sort of not being able to kill games off, even in the games they win?
I just think in that game they just didn't have a control of the game. I think Chelsea just were more dominant, more physical, more eager to get on the ball, and obviously got up front. I think that at times where Liverpool, did that, but I think Chelsea were just more dangerous in the attack. I think Salah had a very quiet game, a lot of misplaced passes and shots as well. Not a great performance from him. Salah was probably the best player in the Premier League last season, definitely. So to see a performance like that out of him is not what you'd expect as well. As one of the senior leaders in Liverpool, you kind of want him to lead on from that season and continue playing well, because you got young players like Bradley and Kirkers and the new signing in Isak. You need to instill confidence in them and be a leader. If you're not doing well as one of the senior players, then the other players are also gonna get affected by that as well. Look, Isak had an assist, but I think he just was quiet. He didn't provide much. Go for it. Look, I don't know. He is a new signing. He hasn't had a preseason at Liverpool, so he might need more time to adapt and stuff. Because he's had a lack of fitness too. Not training enough with Newcastle, when obviously there was some sort of arguments going back and forth between transfer news. But yeah, no, it's just Liverpool right now. We know the defensive issues as well. We have 2 young fullbacks in defence. It's not always gonna be the most confidence. It's not gonna be the most instilling confidence, because I think Kirkes had a very rough game. Obviously, when dealing with the likes of Neto, who's very pacey, very quick, Enzo Fernandez, who's a great player. It's gonna be very difficult for you to defend against players like that. I don't think Kirkes had a terrible game, but he's still a young player. He still needs more time to adapt, and just give him more time, to be honest. Bradley, I think he got done up by Garnacho a lot of times. Garnacho actually had a very good game. So as much as I despise the guy, he did a really good job getting the ball forward. He even hit the post once as well. So he had a very good game. But I think Liverpool they're quite off it. I think Mamardashvili didn't have a bad performance for a goalie who's having his debut for Liverpool. Obviously, Alisson being injured, he had to start this game. So I think he made a few good stops, to be fair. So you can't really put blame on the goalkeeper. I think the players outfield need to set a better example and obviously play better football. But yeah, no, credit to Chelsea, and I think they deserve the win. All round, very good performance from them. To be fair, when I saw Gusto as a CDM, I was a bit confused. I was like, how well was he going to do that? But he did pretty good there, to be fair. Intercepting a lot of passes, making recoveries, passing the ball to Fernandes and Caicedo. Like, he was good, and we know about Caicedo. He's been world class for Chelsea for the last couple of years. So nothing bad you can say about him. He was really good. Cucurella was good as well. A player that's a bit divisive. Some people like him, some people don't. I think he's a good player, but there's no need to bring in other personal matters. If he's a good player, he's a good player. But yeah, I think Chelsea deserve the win, and in the fashion that they won it in is great for everyone else to see. So yeah, that's what I got to say.
Yeah, like I said, you guys seem to be covering the points very, very well. Estevao, great young player, obviously clutching up, and we said pretty much all of us said that he's definitely a player to watch this season. Obviously, young Brazilian player. Can he perform in the Premier League? And seems to be doing it so far. So good for him. And
also, I forgot to say something as well. But Mr. James Bond himself, Verts, 007. When he was signing for British transfer record before Isaac broke it, embarrassing, to be honest. He was completely out of it. A lot of misplaced passes. So sorry to mention that, but I think that needs to get out there. There's gonna be talks of Verts being a flop, and rightly so. For a price tag that high, you need to set an example and be good. And if you're not doing that, well, just like Anthony at this point. So, at least to be fair, Anthony scored in his first three games. So can't really make fun of him for that. But Verts has just been not great, and that's what I've got to say about him.
Yeah, I agree. I obviously said it in the last video, he is a flop, as of now, he is a flop. He hasn't done anything crazy. When you look at the price tag, and I've seen players come in for less and do more. I've seen players come in for more and do more. I've seen players come for the same price and do more. Do you know what I mean? Like, for that price tag, you're expecting a couple of goals and assists, because it's not like he's a defender where he shouldn't be getting involved in the game. No, he's an attacking midfielder. He's a pivotal part of the game. So you can clearly see in this run of form, Wirtz hasn't been performing because you are sort of the main creator in the team. You see teams like Manchester United before with Bruno Fernandes. Look at Man City before with Kevin De Bruyne. These guys control the game in the midfield. They control the attacking aspect, and they are the dictators of the game in the attacking sense. So I guess Liverpool bought Wirtz for that reason, but he hasn't done any of that at the moment. But yeah, he is young and he probably has time to sort of bring it in, but at the moment he's been absolutely dreadful. So yeah, but let's just move on. Coming on to the next game, it is Everton versus Crystal Palace. Now, Al, I'm going to ask you about Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace, obviously, famously losing that 19 unbeaten run. Obviously, they've been posting it on Twitter like it's every single day, keep on updating their bio. We've even seen Domino's taking the piss out of them, changing their bio to Crystal Palace's losing streak. But anyway, we don't talk about that too much. Crystal Palace probably are not in danger because of this result. Obviously, we've seen that they're a very good team and they've been performing very consistently over the last couple months. You think this is just a blip, or do you think this could be something they should worry about? And yeah.
No, I think it's just a bit of a blip, to be honest. Look, it's going to happen. They can't win every game, you know what I mean? Yeah, they had a 19 game unbeaten streak. But what, you expect that to go on forever? Of course not. They're going to lose at some point, and they lost to Everton, who are a great team. You know what I mean? You can't knock them. They got great players, and we talked about that before. Obviously, I did predict Crystal Palace to win. Stupid of me, of course. But look, I should have seen it. Everton do have a good team, and I've talked about that before. It's at home for them in their new stadium, so of course they were going to be up for it. And yeah, like you say, I don't think Crystal Palace fans should be concerned. They've been playing great, and again, like I say, they're gonna lose games here and there. And it's not like they've been losing it to bad teams. Everton are a good team. They got great players. I think the most important thing is going to be keeping on to Gahey, though. Of course, they've already lost Eze, they've already lost Elise, and in January, there's been talks about, whether he's going to leave in January. If that does happen, I think that could possibly derail their season a little. Nothing crazy, but just like maybe not be able to finish in the highest position they possibly could. But you know, you never know. Maybe he stays and then leaves in the summer, of course, for a free. And yeah, no, look, Crystal Palace are a good team. They still got a goal, to be fair to them. I think they take the lead, I believe. Well, maybe I'm wrong. I can't remember, to be honest.
They did.
Yeah,
They were early.
there you go. You know, just unfortunately for them, they weren't able to hold on to it. But again, like I said, it's not like they lost to a bad team, and it's Everton. They're a good team, so nothing to be concerned about, really.
Yeah, Crystal Palace, like you said, there's nothing to be worried about. I think they should probably be more worried about losing Adam Wharton because he is fantastic. And for the life of me, I will never understand why Thomas Tuchel has not selected him for the England squad. I don't think we should talk about that. It's obviously we're not an England podcast, but yeah, that's an unbelievable decision not to take Adam Wharton to the England camp for this time round. But we'll move on to a player who is doing very well and is an England international star. Jack Grealish, Hassan. This guy has come back and made a crazy comeback in terms of he had no game time at Manchester City, looked like a shadow of his former self, and has come back now and, looks like the same Jack Grealish he was at Aston Villa, creating chances, being decisive in games, obviously getting a last-minute winner for Everton. And do you think a player like that could even potentially be up for, player of the season?
Yeah, it's a good thing you asked that, to be fair, because Grealish, as people have talked about since he joined Man City, has not been able to express himself in the way that he was at Villa. A very direct, a very very difficult player to play against on the left hand side. Very creative, as a goal threat as well. And we didn't see much of that in City. Like in City, all he would do is carry the ball and pass it back to the fullback. And as City does play, usually they play with passes around the midfield, and that's it. Another thing that's a Jack Grealish style play. He's more of an old school winger, a guy who takes on defenders and obviously tries to create for his team. And I think we're seeing that for Everton. He's been playing really well. And I think now he's got like 4 goals and is it like 4 goals and assists in 4 games or something like that?
5 goals. He got 4 assists and 1 goal.
Yeah, so pretty crazy stats for someone who was seen as a shadow of his former self in Man City. For someone who's performing now for a team like Everton, who crucially needs someone like that to be a goal threat and create chances, it's great to see. I know he's an ex-Man City player, but he's a player that I admired when he was at Villa, and a player that I wanted at United. So I do have respect for him in that sense that he's a good footballer. And yeah, Everton, as I discussed as on the preview, that in the new stadium they've been playing really well. Obviously, it's great to have stats like this. Playing at home is always, obviously a very important game because you have the fans behind you and stuff. You don't want to let them down. And they're doing that pretty much as well. And I think the defence was pretty good as well for Everton. Pickford had a good few stops as well. Iliman Ndiaye also scored a penalty, I think. And that's, of course, important to him because although he's been good as a player, not the best start in terms of goals and assists for him. So I know he could do much better. So yeah, it's great to see that, hopefully he can build on from this confidence. I know it's an international break, but, things like this does definitely help a player's confidence. And yeah, Everton look like a good team, and Grealish is looking like he'll probably stay in Everton next season as well. He looks very comfortable there, and obviously he's the main choice for that side of the pitch. So yeah, it'll be stupid of Everton not to permanently sign him. So yeah, I think he's very essential for how they are doing right now in the Premier League, and to beat a side like Crystal Palace, who's obviously beaten Liverpool and won 2 trophies last season, is very impressive. David Moyes has done a great job, and yeah, and you got to respect that, to be fair. As for Crystal Palace, no warning. I wouldn't say there's any alarm bells ringing right now. I think they still have very good players. Daniel Munoz obviously scored a goal. He's a very good player, especially on the right hand side. But I think Mateta not been the greatest this season. He's missed a few chances this game as well, from what I can see. So he's not been clinical enough, and I think that's what cost them the game. To be fair, I think Crystal Palace had good chances. They just not been clinical enough to score. So yeah, but overall, I would say it's Crystal Palace's demise right now. I think they should just still build on from it. Yeah, it sucks losing a 19 unbeaten streak, but it is what it is. They got to try and pick themselves up and try and get more results.
Yeah, agreed. No end of the world there for Crystal Palace, and obviously Everton, like Ali was saying, is a very good side, and like Hassan was saying as well. Jack Grealish is a player who's in great form, and obviously, if anyone was to take hold of the game and control it, it was going to be him. So, good result for Everton. Moving on to the next game, it is Newcastle vs Nottingham Forest, 2-0 win for Newcastle. Now, I'm going to ask Ali about the Newcastle side of things, obviously. We talked about how losing a player like Isak could be detrimental to their season. But we have a new striker for Newcastle, Voltemade.
Voltemade,
You know who it is. Voltemade. Yeah. He's been fantastic. I think he scored 3 and 3, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so,
for a player, who's come in, young player. I know they bought him for a big fee, but let's be honest, none of us really knew about him before the purchase. Do you think a player like this has just come in and settled in and sort of is just business as usual since last season for Newcastle, do you think?
Yeah, let's talk about the striker, to be fair, because he is looking like a really important player for Newcastle at the moment. I do want to mention the fact that I saw an interview with him, and he was being asked questions about players and like teams and stuff like that. And a lot of them were Liverpool, answers, which probably worries Newcastle fans a little. Obviously, with their history with strikers going to Liverpool and the way that ended, of course, with Isak. But look, hopefully that doesn't happen for Newcastle. And yeah, no, look, he's looking like an amazing player. Obviously, again, you can't say it's a like-for-like replacement of Isak because, they're kind of like different players. But to be fair to Voltemade, I guess what he has on Isak maybe is that heading ability because of his height and his jump. And no, he's just been a great player for them. And to be fair to Carlos, he did talk to me before about Voltemade and how he was called like a taller Messi essentially out in Germany because of his dribbling ability, especially considering his height. It's not really easy to be able to dribble, and with his agility considering his height. And he's been doing really good at that. And to be fair, I've seen a little highlight of him in the Champions League, and little passage of play that he did with his dribbling, and to be fair, yeah, like really shocked me considering his height. You know what I mean? So yeah, no, 3 goals in 3 games. That's great for him, great for Newcastle. I'm sure they're really happy with their signing, and considering how much they spent on him, and he's performed unlike some Germans in the Premier League that came in for a big fee. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely there, but we seem to keep on coming back to that guy. But let's just, try and not attack one player and,
poor guy.
Let's attack a whole club, shall we, Hassan? Nottingham Forest have been absolutely awful this season.
They
had,
got
I think,
007,
that one win. Ange 007, to be fair, no wins, and, unbelievable how bad they've been this season. They've only won the first game of the season, That's the first game of the season, It's just vibes of the new season. I don't know what you think about Ange Postecoglou, but do you think that at some point it's going to just be untenable and they will probably have to sack him sooner rather than later? It's kind of sad to say, but, he's not won any games.
I mean, you know what he says. He usually wins things in his second season, but I just think Forest right now, not looking good at all. I think Sal's probably kept them in the game, didn't make it a nasty scoreline. But yeah, it's just, what can I say? To be fair, I mean, this all stems from the ownership. Obviously getting rid of Nuno, who's obviously maintaining good momentum with Forest. Forest will get good results. Competing in Europe. Now, and that's all because of Nuno. But obviously getting rid of a manager like that is going to have a negative effect on the team, especially when you bring a coach like Ange Postecoglou, who hasn't had the best form in the Premier League. So yeah, it's just a very rash decision from them, to be fair. And sometimes in football, you may not have good relationships with everyone. I know in Man United, a lot of players fell out of Sir Alex Ferguson, but they still put in a shift for the manager. And you got to be professional about things. You can't just sack a manager just because you don't agree with him with certain things or some off the field stuff. You know what I mean? Like, you got to keep it professional and know what you're here for. You're here to win games. You're not here to make a statement or just sack a manager just so you have the final say. And I think it's been the owner in the arse, to say the least. But yeah, I think also there's a stat, which is a pretty crazy stat. I think Ange Postecoglou is the first manager on a permanent contract to lose the first 6 games for Nottingham Forest in 100 years, I think. So yeah, pretty ridiculous stat when you think about it.
Wow.
Yeah, a very awful start for him, which isn't great. Despite all the stuff that happened to him last season, obviously finishing 17th of Spurs. He did win Europa League, but I think rightly so. The Spurs board decided to sack him because that is a sackable thing to do. Spurs finishing 17th is a disgrace. Even though winning Europa League is a big thing for them, that doesn't cover up, the performance in the Premier League. Yeah, he had injuries, whatever, but 17th is a disgrace. Like 10th, 11th maybe, but for United to finish above you is pretty disgraceful in my opinion. So yeah, it's just not looking good for the owner. He's been proven wrong. So he's gonna be thinking about stuff a lot, and he's gonna be probably changing his approach to the footballing side of things and not making rash decisions and just thinking about things carefully and being more professional. About Voltemada as well, a player that kind of reminds me of is Xerxes in a way because they're both quite tall, very nice dribbling. Xerxes has been proven to score goals as well. He's scored very nice goals for United. But I think he's just not been consistent. But I think Voltemada is a very good player. I see a future with him. He could be a star eventually for Newcastle. Obviously, if he doesn't leave to a big club, I'm not saying that Newcastle's a small club, but a bigger club like Liverpool, Man United, or whatever could, see him useful. So yeah, as a Newcastle fan, you hope that he doesn't go to a different club, and he's doing pretty well. So yeah, that's what I've got to say.
Yeah, listen, it's a very good result for Newcastle and Forest. Honestly, I don't know what you do in this situation. You've already sort of messed up the season by sacking Nuno. So what do? Go and sack another manager and get in another manager and potentially put him in this mess? It's a very, very sticky situation, and they've got a long international break now to think about what they can do in this situation. But that's seven games and no wins. So 007. That's it. Moving on to the next game, and that is Wolves versus Brighton. Now, Wolves have got another result. Believe it or not, they got another result. Let's just give them a round of applause. Listen, with all due respect to Wolves, they haven't been good this season. And Brighton, to be fair, they've been very inconsistent. They've had very good wins, they've had very poor losses, and they've had very, questionable draws. That's what you could probably say about that. Al, in terms of Brighton, listen, it's another one of those games where Wolves have lost the lead late. It was 86th minute, not in the 90th. Obviously, the same way they did against Tottenham. Do you think it's a good thing for Brighton to be able to sort of claw back results in terms of, later on scoring goals and making games, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get what you're trying to say. Look, it's not a bad thing, of course. Like you always want to see other teams be able to maybe clutch up, fight till the end and get a result, which is a good thing. And they did that. Even sometimes I know we've been really harsh with Wolves. Of course, it's because they've had an awful start to the season and they just haven't been great. Which is not necessarily their fault. They obviously lost a lot of their great players that were winning them games and stuff. But yeah, to be fair, they're still a team that can put in a good performance, and obviously that was showed against Tottenham last week, and other games this season. So it was never going to be a completely easy win for Brighton, even though some of us predicted that. But yeah, you know what I mean. Like they'll still be okay with that result, considering that they were losing that game until the end of the the last minutes of the game. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I've been slightly disappointed with Brighton this season with their inconsistency. But then again, a lot of teams have been very inconsistent this season, so it's not just them. It's been a bit of a really weird season, if I'm being honest. A lot of teams have just been really inconsistent. I mean, you could just look at our predictions. It's probably a great reflection on how the season's been. Half the time we think, oh yeah, that will definitely be a win for that team, and it just never goes that way. So yeah, you know what I mean. But not necessarily cause for concern for Brighton, because we know how good they are and their whole the way the club's run. So I'm sure they'll be all right. But yeah, what about you?
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I just wanted to sort of say that Brighton, they need to get better results, and obviously they are rescuing points at this point. But I will ask Hassan about the Wolves side of things now. Obviously, they are still rock bottom of the Premier League. Not been convincing in any of their games. Obviously, having not got a win at all. I'm guessing it's time to hit the panic alarm for Wolves now. And is there sort of? Do you think the right move now? Because obviously we saw only a couple of weeks ago that they gave the manager a new contract, which is sort of bamboozled me, to be honest. What do you think Wolves' next step should be? And it's kind of a hard one to answer, to be fair, but
Yeah, it is hard because it's kind of two main factors. Obviously, they lost two big players, Ait Nouri and Matheus Cunha. Two very important players for the club. So you got to feel for them in that regard. But obviously, the manager has to have some sort of results and consistency within the team. And Wolves have just been dominated by every side for the most part. I think this game they weren't terrible. They weren't the worst. Not the worst like performance from them from the season, but I think obviously the manager's style play is not suited for these players, and they're not playing to the best of their abilities. And of course, that's always down to the manager. The manager takes half the responsibility on the pitch. So yeah, it's not looking good enough. And another questionable decision from the board to permanently sign him for a new contract. I feel like that's what I said. Making rash decisions in general can obviously lead to stuff like this happening. You got to be sure who you signing, what style of football you want to implement, and what they bring to the team. If you just permanently sign anyone because they're just your best option right now, that's not a good mentality to have. I feel like they should have explored more in the manager market and seen if there's anyone else who could suit the style of play better. Because from what I'm seeing, Wolves just employ anyone who's Portuguese at this point. Just employ someone else who's different. He's got a different style of play. I don't know if the owner's Portuguese or anything like that, but they got a Portuguese obsession. It is pretty crazy. They need to obviously fix up, because obviously whatever they're trying to do with that side of things is not working, and they got to fix up on that. So, just very questionable decisions again from another board. So, yeah, they need to fix up. And with sacking a manager, obviously that comes with, obviously paying off the contract. So obviously more money down the drain. So not a good sign for them. But I think now is probably the best time to do it, because you look at them right now, they're rock bottom. They haven't won a single game. I think they're the only side in the Premier League without a win. So, yeah, not looking good from them. My opinion is they should definitely sack him and find someone else who could get results.
Yeah, I mean, you say he's just sack him, but they've just given him a new contract. That's going to be very expensive on their side, Obviously, we hear managers who have 1 year left on their contract and how much clubs have to pay for that. But, I think it's just such a stupid mistake, because it's just going to cost you much more money. You're going to have to get in potentially a new manager. We've seen even clubs now buying managers the same way Man United bought Ruben Amorim. And I'm pretty sure Chelsea, when they got Graham Potter, they paid a transfer fee for him too. So, yeah, I don't know what Wolves are going to do at this point, but they need to do something. The owners know better than us, so let's see if they can make the correct decision. We'll move on to the next game, and just bear with me, pulling it out for you now. And that is Aston Villa versus Burnley. Aston Villa won 2-1, keeping up a very good little sort of vein of form, winning, I think, the last 3 games, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously, we were talking about how they weren't really good from the start of the season. Do you think that Aston Villa, Ali, can be a potential dark horse for Europe if they can keep their consistency up? I mean,
Look, they're a great team, great coach. The only thing that really holding them back was their transfer window, unfortunately. Hopefully, like I said in the last video, hopefully that could be a turning point for them, the last result. And obviously they won again, against Burnley. I thought they'd win by a more convincing margin, but then again, to be fair, it's not been very many convincing results this season from most teams. So it's most important thing is to win, and that's what they did. And yeah, no, that's good for them. Again, we've talked about how good of a team they are and how some great players that they have. Important players like John McGinn, Morgan Rogers, Ollie Watkins, Obviously, the most important probably Emi Martinez, who we thought would get a move to Manchester United this summer, but never went through. I'm sure Villa are so glad that that never happened. Look, I mean, if they can keep it up, they got an international break. I don't know if this is going to be a bad thing for them, possibly because they had a good bit of momentum going. But like Unai Emery's a great coach. I'm sure he'll be able to carry on a bit of the form. And if they do, then yeah, why not? Of course they can go for Europe again. They did it before. They did the season before that. Like, why not? Why not?
Yeah, very good point. I think Aston Villa, if they can keep up their consistency, they showed it last season and they showed it the season before that too. There is one player that has performed for them in this game, and that was Donyell Malen. Now, Hassan, I don't know if you actually know much about him. He was at Dortmund before, and he was a former youth player at Arsenal. Aston Villa need players like this, They need players that can perform and step up, because obviously at the beginning of the season they didn't have that. Morgan Rogers wasn't playing well. Ollie Watkins didn't have a good game. You could probably say he hasn't really been the same since, the transfer to Manchester United. Sometimes that messes up with somebody's head. And you probably said that their best player since the beginning of the season was probably John McGinn, being the most consistent goal scorer for them. Do you think it's good for them now that they've found a sort of player that can potentially be a consistent player in terms of Donyell Malen? And obviously they probably need to invest in other positions. Do you think that the potential players on the bench like Harvey Elliott and whether you like him or not, Jadon Sancho, can these guys come in also and make an impact?
In regards to Marlon, I did watch a bit of him in Dortmund. Obviously he's got great talent. He's still a young player. I think he's got enough time to embed himself in the team and have a good impact. Obviously you mentioned Morgan Rogers as well. He had a very good standout season last season. But obviously, as you said, transfer rumours usually messes up with players' heads. We've seen that with Carlos Baliba as well. He's not been good for Brighton recently. So when you're linked with moves like that, it kind of messes up with your mind, and mentally you're not there. But yeah, as you said, John McGinn, for me, he's been Aston Villa's best player, most consistent player in my opinion. And he's the captain, and that's what you need from your captain to consistently do well for your team. Set a good example on the team. Watkins, I think he's not been great, to be fair. I don't know if that's him not getting enough chances or him not just being in the game. But I think Aston Villa's issue is definitely in the striker. They're missing that striker, which isn't ideal for them. But I mean, I'm sure if they get more goals from other places in the pitch, such as Marlon, who's playing on the right wing, they could definitely still get results. Look, I think it's a bit too early to judge. It's against Burnley, so you can't really say how Aston Villa's season is going to go. I feel like you need to give them more time, but their form of run has been impressive. They've won their last 4 games, if you include this game. So, you can't really say any negative things about West Ham. You just got to see how they do well against the bigger sides and see if they could. Villa. Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, my bad. I'm ill, by the way. So if you guys see me sniffling. Yeah, if you see me sniffling and all that, I have a flu right now, so I'm not in the game. So yeah, I'm sorry about that. But yeah, anyways, it's just they need to play against the good sides in order for us to judge them fairly. Because right now, you can't really judge that right now. So I say just give them more time, see how the season goes, and then we can see who'll be competing for Europe. Because how it's looking like this season is very indecisive. You don't know who's going to win games or whatever. I know from this week I predicted a lot of games right, but most of the season it's not been like that. Most of us have been predicting the wrong scores. So Premier League is a very competitive league, and that's what we like to see. Just underdogs winning games. So that's what I got to say.
Yeah. Listen, on the Aston Villa side of things, they can definitely come in and sort of be consistent and keep it going. We've seen them do it before. We've seen them be a great side. Maybe they're lacking that kind of, their spark, I guess, in their team. But if they can consistently keep on winning games as they've been doing the last couple, then I can see them having a good season still. Because again, it's still really early on in the season, so you can't judge anybody right now. You can only really judge them at the end of the season. So, that's kind of what you want to say about Aston Villa. In terms of Burnley, listen, they are giving good games. They're giving close games, and most of the games you see them play, it's always a close scoreline, except for the Man City game, obviously. But Man City, when they're at home, they just seem to be smashing everyone. But other than that, I think Burnley are doing decent, but I still don't think it's enough because, like we said, anyone can beat anyone. But if Burnley just needs to sort of take their opportunities, and in these type of games, they need to sort of show more authority and sort of try and be more consistent and like make more chances and try and win the game because they're going to need wins if they want to stay in the league, and they're not really getting that at the moment. So yeah, kind of feel bad for them, but that's how the cookie crumbles. We'll move on to the last game of the weekend, and that is Manchester City winning away at Brentford 1-0. Listen, when it comes to Manchester City, Al, we'll let you talk about, who you think the best striker in the world is. Obviously, we know you think it's Erling Haaland, and he's been unbelievably consistent this season. 9 goals this season in the Premier League, also scoring in the Champions League, and he's a phenomenon, isn't he, in terms of goal scoring? I think he could smash all kind of records by the end of his career. God forbid he has any injuries. It's a bit of a strange one, though, because they only won 1-0. Even though you look at the stats and they've done well, you could probably give a bit of credit to Brentford. But, yeah, what do you think about Erling Haaland?
Look, to be fair, with Erling Haaland, obviously, I've said a lot of things about him, probably glaze him a bit too much, to be fair. But for good reason. I mean, like I've said before, he is, for me, the best striker in the world. In terms of consistency, in terms of goal scoring, being a straight up goal threat. Of course, we said before that possibly Rodri was probably one of the most important players for City, and of course he got injured that game. But if it weren't for Erling Haaland, they probably wouldn't be winning the games by, first of all, the margins that they've been winning them by, and even games like this where he comes in, clutches up, gets that goal, and carries them through the game. A lot of people try to say he's a one-trick pony, maybe a tap-in merchant, this and that. But at the end of the day, he's getting the goals. He's getting at the end of the chances and sometimes creating the chances himself. That's how good of a striker he is. I think City, must be, so happy to have a player like this. Any team in the world could do with a player like Erling Haaland, just getting the goals consistently every week. And yeah, I mean, there's not really much to say. Obviously, Brentford, going through a little thing right now, maybe transition. You could say they got Keith Andrews. He's doing pretty great, to be fair. Wouldn't be too worried if I was Brentford. I know I did predict them to get relegated, but I think honestly, maybe at this point, obviously it's a bit too early to judge, but they might be able to stay in the league. Ouattara has been a great player for them. I don't think he came on late, to be fair, for them, which to be honest surprised me that he didn't even start, but maybe it was like an injury thing, fitness, I don't know. But yeah, going back to Man City, Erling Haaland is he's just brilliant, to be fair. Like, you know what I mean? Gets the goal again, saves them again, and that's what he does.
Yeah, wrapped it up really well. That's his job, and he seems to be doing it best than any other player in the world at the moment. But Hassan, I also wanted to add, obviously, Ali mentioned the Rodri injury. Obviously, he has won the Ballon d'Or. He is a Ballon d'Or winner, and he's a fantastic footballer. And we've seen when he's out of the team, Man City seem to sort of crumble and collapse in terms of in the midfield. What do you think Pep has to do now? Because, well, obviously we're not sure how long Rodri's out for, but he seems to be picking up a lot of injuries nowadays. Is there any sort of player that he can potentially bring in from the bench, or can, obviously no one can really cover him, but do a job?
I think it's going to be difficult. We've seen how Man City are with and without Rodri, and the difference is night and day. He provides a lot of stability in midfield, and obviously covering for the midfielders that are going up front, such as Foden and Reinders. So I feel like Man City now will kind of be more exposed in the defensive side of things, because, as you mentioned, he's a Ballon d'Or winner for good reason. He was very good that season, and a big asset as to why they won the treble that season. Look, I think it's going to be very difficult for them to find a replacement. They do have Nico Gonzalez, who's still a good player, but obviously not to the likes of Rodri. Rodri for me is probably one of the best number 6s in the world. So, even now that he's quite injury prone now, which isn't great, and just pick up injuries as he goes along, I still think he's up there. But Gonzalez can come in and do a job, which I think he's able to. They did pay a big fee for him, So I think that, for a player who's worth that much, he must provide some sort of quality to the team. So yeah, I think he'll be able to do a job. He does have Kovacic as well, but Kovacic is not really a CDM. He's more of a box to box. So I mean, Pep, we know he's a genius. He can solve these problems easily. You'll find a way through it. But yeah, it's going to be still difficult because we've seen how Rodri is, and when he's not in the squad, how Man City, as you said, crumble. But yeah, I think Haaland for them is like the main talisman for them right now. He's just scoring goals left, right, and center. Like even with a bad performance, they can mask it up with a goal from Haaland. And yeah, what people say, talks about being a tapping merchant. I think those people that don't watch football and they don't appreciate how important it is to be a very powerful, quick striker who's able to take chances like that. Because a lot of strikers are not able to do what he does, and you got to respect that. And as a United fan, I don't like him obviously, but I do respect what he does for his team and the goals he scores. He is a player that we're all looking forward to breaking records and being in the conversation of Ballon d'Or winner eventually. I think he had one good season in that season, in the treble season, where he was also one of the main figures in that team. But I think he is a definite future Ballon d'Or winner and the best striker in the world. So yeah, in regards to Man City, I feel like they do need someone else to do well as well, not just Haaland doing everything, because at a certain point Haaland will get 2 or 3 players onto him. It's gonna be difficult for him to score or do anything. So I think there needs to be another start in the team and do well. I think Doku's been doing that. I'm surprised he didn't start, to be fair, because he's been having very good performances. So I think Savino didn't do much on the left hand side, so I feel like he needs to just stick with Doku and see how it goes, because he's been playing really well for them. And that's what I've got to say, really.
Yeah, Man City obviously didn't have a really good season last season, only sort of kind of just scraping by their standards Champions League football. Brentford, obviously, we know they're a good team and, probably doing a lot better than all of us thought. But, Manchester City seem to be building consistency again. They're not as dominant as they were, maybe. But, listen, they've got quite a difficult run of games now. They've got play Everton at home, and later in the month they have to play the mighty Swansea City in the Carabao Cup, and let's see what they can do there. Because I think Swansea are the favourites. No, I'm joking. But yeah, it's not an easy run of games for Pep. But obviously, Man City are probably the team you'd expect to do the best out of any team in those run of games. But that is it for the results for this match week. Thank you guys for coming in and being involved. Please let us know if you guys want to make any comments about the games too. We'd love to interact with you guys and have that conversation and keep it going. Just before we do the quiz for the next player, I just wanted to show the leaderboard. Obviously, Hassan had a great week, so he's pulling away now. Ali, there, and me, rock bottom, and just as a little sort of snippet, us boys on the way, because we played football today together, and we were discussing a potential forfeit. We have come to a decision. The forfeit shall be the loser will bleach his hair and go blonde, completely blonde, no highlights, no nothing, just blonde. That's it, blonde. You can keep the facial hair, but the hair has to go blonde. So that is the forfeit for the thing. And we'll probably record, as that happens, and potential reactions of people reacting to it. But it's not looking good for me at all. Obviously, I'm rock bottom now, so it's very likely to be me.
I didn't suggest it, and I didn't sign up for it either. So you know what I mean?
I mean, it's not something you sign up for. It's a forfeit. You're not meant to like it.
Exactly. I'm like into it at this point.
Do you know what I mean? Who knows who's gonna have to do it? But at the end of the day, we'll have to wait and see. Obviously that's the leaderboard, and let's see what happens over the next couple of weeks. Now we have a nice little break, so we can kind of chillax before we get into more arguments, as we've been getting in the group chat. But Al, do you want to go ahead and give us a quiz for the next player?
Yes. The first fact is he was part of the Spanish squad that won 3 consecutive major international trophies in 2008, 2010 and 2012, scoring in the finals of 2 of them. Second fact, he was awarded the Golden Boot at Euro 2012, despite starting most matches on the bench. Third fact, his first Premier League goal came against Chelsea, the same club he would later join in a record-breaking transfer. Fourth fact, he is one of only a few players to have scored in the Champions League, European Championship and World Cup finals. Fifth and final fact, later in his career, he returned to his boyhood club before finishing his playing days in Japan. Let us know if you know who that is in the comments, and we will reveal the player in the next video.
Perfect, guys. Thank you very much for coming in. Please leave a like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell so you know when we upload videos, and we hope to see you on the next one. So take care, guys.
See ya.
See ya.